Okay.
All right, guys. So now that we are recording, for all of you guys that are alive, I'm excited to have you here. For those of you that watch the recording, as I just said, we have some special guests that are going to talk. And the big topic today is going to be who we are and how we show up when nobody's watching, because it's not necessarily always about what we have. We have all the tools. It's about showing up when it's inconvenient. Because as we know, it's easy to show up when things are all lined up and shit isn't messy. But when things get messy, things get hard, it's hard to be consistent. It's hard to hold the standard. So I'm going to step back and I'm going to turn the floor over to Kate and Cindy, who have decided to hijack this call. So, ladies, I don't know if you want to talk a little. I mean, I think you guys all know who they are, but they are going to run this call. So, have at it, ladies.
I'm
Hi,
not sure if I'm not sure if decided that we decided, but it was decided for us. But in any case, we're hijacking the call. So however that came out. Cindy, go ahead. Go ahead and you start.
okay. Hi, everyone. And Jules, thank you for allowing us to hijack the call. We've been having some conversations recently, especially me with our coach about, coming into spring and summer. For me, I personally travel a lot between work and dance with my kids. So I am gone, I would say at least for 4 days every other week. So it's quite often. And, I learned when I was traveling by failing many times over. Either A, I wouldn't pack my food, or B, my old toolbox would say, I'm traveling. I get to do whatever I want. I get to eat whatever I want. I get to have room service. Actually, that used to be my favorite thing on this earth, was the opportunity to order room service, more so than like watching my kids dance. I'm like, it's room service, right? And I would get really excited about that. But as I came into this program, and I've been in this program now for a couple of years, so quite some time, you gain these tools of how to live your life when things are inconvenient. And I started to really lean into that. And more so because I really got sick of starting over on Monday, right? So I would put in all this work all week, and the weekend would hit, and I would go off the rails, and the shame and guilt and starting over and progress and all of those things that this program teaches us, I was just running this hamster wheel pretty much the whole time of constantly having that underlining depression of starting over or trying to overreact, and you do 2 workouts in a day and you restrict your calories, and you guys probably all know that vicious cycle. But for me, I'm really type A. I'm a scheduler, I'm a planner, and I'm black and white. I don't really have a gray area in between to dabble in things and still be okay. It's just kind of not who I am. So, it's really kind of what Jules said, putting the tools into action and remembering, what does it look like for you when nobody's watching, which is what this whole question is about. And for me, I had to make a shift in that area. So the shift was coming back from a trip and dealing with those feelings. I didn't want to do it anymore. And I would wonder why on my check-ins I wasn't really making any progress, when ultimately I really had to dig deep enough inside myself to go, you treat the weekends like you treat the weekdays, right? Or for me, I treat 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. the same way I treat 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Because for me, the night times are where I struggle, right? So really becoming aware of my patterns and behaviors and making that shift. So now when I travel, and I've been doing this for at least a good solid year, I would say, it does become very natural. I pack all my food, I stay on my program, and I roll into Monday with so much confidence and ease, and nothing's changed, right? So I roll into my Monday breakfast that's on my meal plan, and it feels like the same thing, even though I just got back from a 4-day trip. So the pressure and stress and feelings really all go away, which really sets me up for my continuing successful week. I just call it the rollover because there's so much freedom behind that. No stress, no starting over, no dread. And the other thing I realized, the more I started doing this, a lot of people I travel with is repetitive. So, we have dinners, we have meetings, we have celebrations, we have awards. And one of my biggest gifts, I would say, in doing this, not only do all those feelings go away for me, but I bring my dinner, to the restaurant. And it makes me emotional because everyone asks why I'm eating something different. And I get to share the opportunities that this program gives. I mean, for so many years, I was stuck in such a cycle of bad behaviors that I get to share this experience with other women. I'm usually around women. There's not that many men. That there's a way out, right? That there's a way out of that cycle. And it consumed my life for so many years that alone is enough for me to bring my food to that dinner table, right? Because every single person says, well, what do you do? Well, how do you get those arms? Well, why do you eat like that? And if that can inspire anyone to come to this program knowing there's a way out and breaking those chains, that's my biggest gift, right? So I just think of it now as an opportunity. So that's kind of what I wanted to touch on was, as summertime's coming, the traveling and the inconvenience and how you can shift to make that work. And those are the feelings I have behind it, where Kate travels differently and that works for her too. And they're totally two different ways of keeping the same lifestyle, but with different personalities on what works for you, right? Which is so, so incredible. So that's kind of how I do it. And I just wanted to share that because I do think a lot of people come into summer plans and making that shift.
I love that. I'm going to jump in, Kate, for a second because I want to just have you clarify a couple of things that I heard you say, and I want to make sure everybody else heard this. Um, so I'm sure some people are like, "Holy shit, you like a meal guide. You follow it to a T. You bring your food to restaurants." But in the beginning, you said you didn't. And you also shared something like this, like your black and white personality. And doing this actually makes you feel at ease or peace, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So it's your personality. This isn't something that, like, you're saying, like, this is something you do because you found that this is what works for you. Am I correct?
Yeah. And if I dabble in not my structure, all bets are off. I mean, for me, if I take, I'm not a 4-bite ruler. I'm just not. So if I take those 4 bites of whatever it is, fuck it, it's on. There's like no looking back, right? So people can do that. For me, refined sugar is like the devil. It freaking does something on the inside of me that if I eat it, I can't stop eating it and I want more and I obsess and it just goes crazy, right? So for me personally, I just can't have it.
But what you're saying is you know yourself very well.
Well, I've learned and continuing to learn. I learned from this program, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known any of that without the toolbox and the awareness of patterns and behaviors. And I've only learned those by being repetitive.
I love that. I'm gonna let Kate jump in. I see she came off mute.
Oh, I just was preparing for whenever. um, and like Cindy said, so I mean, I've talked in our lives before. I've been with the program for about a year. and I've made great progress scale wise and recomp wise. Could I have made better progress had I really learned what I learned 3 months in? Absolutely. And what Cindy talked about is, when I traveled this March, and I didn't take my food. I was like, I'm going to eat intentionally. I'm not going to go off and eat like an a-hole, which I love food and I love eating, and I will binge. I love it. I love sugar, all of it. And I said, you know what, I'm not going to do it. I was very intentional, and I came back on that Monday and I had maintained, and then I was able to kind of shift back in and continue to make progress. So that's where I'm at in my journey. And maybe, where I'm at is, I was telling this to Jules earlier, is I could maintain now and be very proud of myself, very proud of where I'm at scale wise, the clothes I'm fitting in. I would be completely fine. For me personally, I have a goal of going further and seeing how much I can develop my body and push my body, to see where I can get. Can I get to Cindy's level? Can I get to Amber's level? Can I get to Jules' level? Can I get to that level? And not everyone is going to have that goal, and that's completely fine. Everyone is going to have a different personal goal in terms of, where you want to be. Does Renee, you want to be in a size large, and, is that the goal? And, so everyone's going to be different. So, I encourage you, as you're listening to Cindy talk and me talk, we're all going to be different. We all have our different goals. For me, I want to encourage you and talk to you about me personally. I didn't get locked in probably really until January. And when I say locked in, it was, I'm not negotiating anymore. We talked about, were we not negotiation February? It was February, right? Yes. I was done with it because, my kid this weekend just randomly decides, I'm going to make a cake. Make my kryptonite, buddy. Thanks for making the one thing that I will binge eat with homemade frosting. I'll sit there and eat the whole cake. But I'm done negotiating with myself on, well, I can just have a piece here and I'm just going to eat off of that. I'm not doing that anymore. And so I think all of us, the question goes back to, who are we when nobody's in the room? If I'm standing in a room and you guys are all standing in the room with me, I'm the greatest example on the planet. None of us are going to screw up. We're all going to have a big buffet there and we're not going to cheat. But we're not all in the room. When this call ends, we all get to walk into our kitchen and we get to look at the different things that our husband or our kids or whatever has. And we have to make the determination as to who are we when we're by ourselves before our check-in, before we, do our thing with Jules at once a week. And we do that little commentary, and are we lying or are we telling the truth? What are we going to do? What are we going to stop, negotiate, and what are we going to lock in? And for me, I knew that if I'm going to go to the next level, I can't negotiate anymore. Now, that said, there are times where, if somebody brings in a nothing but cake, I don't know if that's an Arizona thing, if that's that's an everywhere thing, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say no to a nothing but cake. Like, I have some things that in my life that, are they worth the calories or they're not? Are they worth it to me or are they not? There are some times that, the rare occasion someone's going to bring that in. I'm like, I'll put that on my thing and I'll add the 400 calories and then and I'll get right back on it. I'll just stay right back in. That's not going to blow me out of the water. And I'm going to say, well, screw it for the rest of the week. I'll just eat 49 of them. I'm back in. I'm going to log it and say, okay, I'm going to have it, enjoy it, and then move on. But I think, as we talk about who are you when you're alone, what do you want? What are you not going to negotiate? And then sidebar, the other term is, motivation. I'm not motivated. And I don't like that word anymore. personally, because I'm not motivated to set my alarm every morning at 4. I would love to sleep in and go in later, but I can't. I'm at work early, and by the time I'm done, I left work early to come home so I could be on the call. Normally I'm there till 4:30. I don't want to go to the gym at 5. It's too, there's too many people. It's too clubby. It's, I don't get my machine, and I like my machine. So I get up every morning at 4 and I go to the gym and I get it done and I get my steps and I prep my food and I do all that. And that's how I roll. And that's, for me, that's what being on purpose and on plan means. Because motivation is completely driven by your emotions. And you can say on Thursday, I'm not motivated to go to the gym, and then you're done the whole weekend, and then you've got to start over again on Monday, and you're in that cycle, like Cindy said, of through it, and then you're starting over on Monday, and then you don't get progress. You spend a year on this program and you're not making progress because you're not being honest with yourself, and you're not putting yourself first, and you're not being, my little mantra we've talked about is on plan, on purpose. I'm doing everything on purpose for a reason. And for each of you, what is that reason? And what are you going to do to make that happen for you?
So
I saw.
sorry.
I was real quick. Sorry. I got, for the first time in a gazillion years of living in Arizona, I finally got allergy tested yesterday. I'm allergic to Arizona is basically the bottom line. So I'm sorry. I'm kind of drippy and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I saw a great visual yesterday by someone I follow on Instagram. And he did this great visual of, he had 2 bowls and he was putting beads in one bowl. And the bead was, go to the gym and then get my steps, eat my food. And all of these beads were just piling up of all the great things. And then then there was one bead of, I skipped the gym, or I had a cookie. And where there's a whole bowl of a half bowl of beads of wonderful things, you took this other bowl with the 2 or 3 beads in it, and you threw out the big bowl, all the great things you had done, to focus on these 3 stupid beads, and then you started over. And I felt like that was such a great visual, because we do that so often. We have all these great little, I can't remember who says it. We have deposits in the bank. You put your deposit in the bank at the end of the day. You deposit it in your bank, and then you basically do one thing and you withdrew all of it. And I think we have to get rid of that mindset of it's all or nothing, because it's not. It's a journey of, I do this. Well, okay, I went off a little bit there. All right, well, let's just get back in. Just like, Cindy talked about, if you get off a little bit, it can throw you completely off, or you just get right back in. And I've seen Tina talk about going on a cruise. There was a couple people that talked about going on vacations and feeling so good about being on vacation and being examples and making those good choices while they were gone, and how much better they felt about that. So all that, and I interrupted you, just so go ahead.
Oh, no. I was listening to you guys both, and I wanted to echo back, because you just actually tied it in at that very end for me. Because the question was going to be, is what you're both saying is, when it's who you are, there's nothing ever to reset or redo when it's who you are. And who you are, I think what you're both, reflecting is could look very, very different. I mean, what I heard is 2 similar backgrounds with, sugar and, kryptonite, and that's everybody here has some type of kryptonite, and how you approach it is very, very different. There's no right or wrong, but it's like, when this becomes who you are, guys, and this is what we aim for, is becoming her. That's not by chance. It's about, when this is who you are, the hardness of it becomes easier, and you find the joy and the freedom. And I think that's what I heard Cindy saying too, is there's freedom in her structure. And to some of you guys, that structure may feel but she's found freedom in that structure, and that to her is her peace. I
Mhm.
love that piece. I really love that. You know, she doesn't dread coming home anymore. Like she talked about in the beginning, you know, she
Mhm.
doesn't have that start over energy. Neither one of you do. You know, there's less. What I like about it too is what I hear from both of you is there's less emotion involved in this, and there's a little bit more of a standard you hold yourself to.
Mhm.
And I think that's important for us to understand is I think the biggest piece sometimes, guys, and this is for all of us, is separating the emotion from, you know, when it's who we are. There's facts and there's feelings. And that's where we talk about that identity. It's there's always going to have to be, and both of these ladies will tell you that there was an identity shift for them. There was an identity shift from who they were when they first started to who they are now. And I bet you they both would say when they first started, the idea of this different identity was like, I don't think so. That's not who I am. But like Kate talks about the identity, she's actually very clear. Well, so is Cindy, but I mean, you know, Kate said, well, this is what I want. She was very vocal. I want to look like Jules. I want to look like Cindy. That's the identity. Like, so she's like, basically, whether she hears it or not, she's like, well, I need to shift into that identity. I need to show up as if I already am. And if that is what I want. Correct?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I think we all can look at ourselves as athletes, um, with different goals, whatever that goal is for you. And what does that athlete mindset look like? You know, if you're putting yourself first, what does that look like? And at the beginning or at a stage, that could look very different. You know, Cindy's in one area, like she's in a very serious athlete mindset mode. For somebody else, and the non-negotiable might be, I'm going to stick with my plan 80% of the time, because right now you're not sticking to your plan 20% of your time. It could be increasing the steps. It could be, you know, making the right choice. If you go out to eat, you choose to go out to eat, you make a better choice on what you're eating. It would be not eating the dessert. And so, you know, I don't want everyone to feel like it has to be, like Jules talked about, like an all or nothing, because it's not. I think everyone has different barometers based on your goals. But I think we all need to challenge ourselves a little bit harder on, what are you going to not negotiate about? What's your plan and what is your purpose?
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do to change your plan in this next week, or to do things on purpose? What does that look like for each of you in that way?
Push that envelope 1% more. You know, I was looking for you, Kelly, and I see you down there. I lost you for a minute, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I would love for you. You had an aha moment earlier this year too, and you were pretty steady Eddie with a minute, and it came with your, what do you call it, your LBTs that you had a discovery around. And so like guys, like even you know, everybody has their things, and I don't know, will you come off of mute and talk about your LBTs and your little aha add to this?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, so I was notorious for taking licks, bites, and taste. Especially, I've got 3 kids in this house, so you can imagine what my pantry looks like. And so I would just always, you know, taste something or take a bite of something. Or if I was fixing them dinner, I would just sample it. um, anyway, it wasn't terrible, but I think those were adding up. And so I shifted kind of more into that. If I got rid of this, what would happen? And it was pretty dramatic. And it was really, really hard to do. And I think I still struggle with it. And I'm learning what those triggers are of why I would put something in my mouth. And I try to implement what Jules has taught us all, like the pause, and really think about, what am I feeling right now? Am I tired? Am I cranky? Am I really hungry? Or is this just habit? And so I've just, um, I've just gotten much better at that, and I am seeing results. And I would just add too, like I feel like I'm kind of a hybrid between Cindy and Kate. And when I still like, I pack food for sports, but if we are going on a tropical vacation, I'm not doing that. And I'm going to be very present with my people and my location and all the things, right? Um, but I would say, like in the beginning, when I was not bringing food, and then I started to bring food, but I wouldn't even bring like the right food for my macros. I'd be like, oh, I'll just eat a protein bar, or um, just kind of shortchange like the actual meals and the macros a little bit, but think that I was making a better choice. And that's okay, because it was all like just an evolution that just kind of got me to where I am now, which is I'm on plan 90% of the time, even when we travel. And then when we take those really nice breaks, um, then that is when I will not necessarily be on plan. But I still do my exercise, like I still exercise, I still move, and I have not come home from a vacation with that dread and that guilt and that shame. I know exactly what I'm doing on Monday, and 9 times out of 10, I don't even gain weight anymore. Like it is intuitive, similar to Kate, but it's also just the freedom and the stress of when I come back. I know exactly what to do.
And tell me a little bit about this. You both, you and Cindy talk about this, and you both can add into it. So you come back and you know exactly what to do, and you do it. And I think a lot of women might have this question, and I'm gonna guess you both do similar things because I know it's something that I do. Like, how do you, when you come back, what makes it easier? Like, are you trying to meal prep the day you come back from vacation, or have you planned and prepared ahead of time?
It depends on how long I've been gone. I mean, if it was like if it was a weekend sports trip, I probably still have stuff in the refrigerator. But I'm at the grocery store 2 or 3 times a week. I mean, you guys know I grill chicken. I mean, I grill chicken breast like crazy. Um, so I'm just constantly in that mode because I have so many people that I'm fixing food for anyway. So if it's not, I would be at the grocery store at 8 p.m. on a Sunday night if I need to be.
Yeah, and for me, what I do when I travel, um, well, in California, we have the lazy method of Instacart, right? So if I'm traveling and I'm home on Sunday, I'll Instacart my groceries for what I need. So they're there when I get home, and then I meal prep. And once you get in the groove of your macros and your meal plan and you've got it pretty dialed in and memorized, I meal prep in like 45 minutes tops and I'm done. But I'll meal prep, I'll break it out into 2 days. I'll meal prep for, the first part of the week, and then I'll meal prep again Wednesday night for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I like to have my meals all carry all the way through to the weekend and then start fresh for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So that's how I do it. And it doesn't take that much time at all.
And I'm going to add in too. I want to kind of touch a little bit more on Kelly, but I also want to add in, like, we talk about the meal guides. They are guides, and it is okay when we look at black and white. Many of you guys, you're busy ass boss babes, for better lack of things to say. You have a lot of shit going on. And I'm going to speak for Cindy and even for Kelly a little bit, and possibly Kate. Like, one of the things that a meal guide, and I know for a fact this is why Cindy does it. It eliminate. I literally know this, and she can call me a liar if I'm wrong, but it eliminates decision fatigue for her. She doesn't. I have tried to get her to just do things on her own because, believe it or not, Cindy could structure her own meals, put together her own. She's been around, she knows how to do. She doesn't want to. She just says, like, literally, I'll be like, just here's your macros, do your thing. No. She wants that. And I get that. I'm a lot like that too. I will write some of my own guides. I'm currently coaching myself, but in the past, I prefer to be coached and told what to do. And I think with Kelly talking about intuitive eating, And like she's even talking about, she follows the guide 90% of the time. She also is, you know, super busy. And I'm going to speak for you, Kelly, and say like part of that is like, it's just easier to have the guides and just be like, decision fatigue is gone. That doesn't mean that that's everybody here. There's a few people on this call that I know maintain some structure. Sandy is one of them, and she likes to create some of her own things, you know, but she sticks within her macros and does her thing. Christina's another one. She'll stick within her macros. She's been with the program, both of them, a long time. But when I look at what they're eating, 90% of the time, it's pretty much the same foods. They still eat things on repeat. The difference is they're creating their own favorite meals, but they eat the same thing on repeat because it eliminates decision fatigue in many ways, and it's just simpler. So don't think like, you know, everybody is going to be different. And I'll even speak to, like, you've heard us talk about this before, Nicole versus me. We go on vacation very much the same way. We are both very much like what Kelly explained. We are 90% of the, well, actually, well, maybe we're a hybrid through everything. 90% of the time we are on point. And then there's a 10% of that vacation that there might be indulgence in. And even Nicole's indulgence, I've watched her, is a steak and asparagus. I'm like, girlfriend, I thought you said you were a foodie and you went to the best steak restaurant. And I said, did you have a potato? No, I had steak and asparagus. Oh, well, where was your carb? This is me, her coach, speaking to her. She's like, who the hell are you? But you know, she'll eat the donut, but guys, like, that's not the whole thing. Like, if you saw her eat the donut, like we've talked about this before, you know, she has a bite of it. But what I'm trying to say is we stayed together once in Las Vegas and we had a full-on refrigerator full of food. Now, I was weighing my food because that's just who I am. It's what I am. She was intuitively eating. But when she intuitively eats, guys, she eats the same damn thing over and over, guys. That's the thing. Like almost anybody that I think that's a little bit of this purpose of this call too, is that you swoon over, you look over, 90% of the time, they are locked into something. They are locked into something. 10% of the time, something, you know, is that, and that's it. The freedom comes from, and I kind of liked what Kelly said too, because I could sense that too. The freedom comes from that balancing them both sometimes. You know, for Cindy, the freedom comes from just the structure. She's black and white. You know, Kate, same thing. The freedom comes from the structure and the intuitiveness and the ability to just and they, all three of them said when they come back, it's immediately back on track. So it's like those little things of asking yourself, who am I when nobody's watching? And it's true for all of us. We all spent time there. There were times that I might not have been. There's several times I can tell you honestly in my journey where I wasn't who I said I was. I wasn't always showing up the way that I thought I should, or I said I was showing up for my coach. It's hard to lock those things in, but that's where the reps come in and leaning into your tribe and looking for support and asking for help comes into fact because you're not alone here. And there's nobody in here that's a pink unicorn with purple ears and a sparkly, like everybody here is the same. I love this call. Does anybody have any questions for Kate, Kelly, Cindy, me? Was this good? You guys are all so quiet.
I have a question. I think it was when Cindy was talking, she said she's a type 1 or a type A person. What did you mean by that? Is there something that there's different types? Is that like a program you went through to find out what type of type you are?
Did we lose?
Well, she's
Cindy?
on. Yeah, she's down here.
Let's hear.
She's off a camera.
Oh,
She might have something going on. No,
Type
she's
A is
talking about,
very organized.
yes. Type A
Type A
very-
is like when referred to type A as like, I don't like saying OCD because that's an actual diagnosis, but in the past we were like, oh, I'm so OCD. You're type A, you're very organized. You have to be very disciplined and you're very, very on track for
Okay.
what I have to do.
Okay. Well, that's not me. I was
Yeah.
just wondering if there was something you could go to find out what type you were.
Oh no, she was just using that more as a slang.
Okay, as
Type
a
A,
metaphor.
yeah, as a
Okay.
metaphor. But a type
Okay.
A personality is just what Kate said, or even how she explained it. She's very black and white. She struggles with gray. And I know as her coach, I can tell you that. Like
Mhm.
you want to know how I have to coach Cindy, and she'll tell you this. The way that I coach Cindy is actually getting her to search for some of the gray areas sometimes, getting herself to not be so black or white. Like that's a big thing with her because
Okay.
but you have to, like, why I love that she spoke about this is there's so many different elements. Like people might look and say, well, that would be a great personality to have. But as she said, it's not, because she listened to what she talked about in the beginning. She was like, before she became this, like, if she knows herself so well that if she has the sugar, she's just like, I can't have it. And that's okay. That's her choice. She's choosing to do that because she knows herself so well, because her A personality, she's just going to dive in head first, balls to the wall.
I just wanted to let you know there is a personality test. It's called Myers-Briggs, and that's when you find out if you're a type A, type B. They have different initials. Are you an introvert, extrovert? We used to do that in my HR group, just as a thing and in school. So it's online. It's called Myers-Briggs, and it tells you what kind of personality you are: type A, type B, and all the in-betweens.
See, we did one at work, but it was called colors. If you were gold, blue, orange, that type of thing. I think it's similar to that.
There's a lot of different ones out there. When I was in corporate, we used to do a lot of that when in our leadership, courses.
Yeah.
We would have to do a lot of that with people. But yeah, it's very similar, Brenda. And yeah, I mean, it's actually can be handy to know yourself a little bit better. But at the end of the day, guys, a lot of it too is, also we all have different parts that live inside of us. Like, and it's really being aware of, like, the emotional piece comes from, and you've heard us, like, the different parts of us that create different identities in ourselves. And that is starting to understand those, because a lot of times food is really much, this is why food's a trigger. It's attached to a lot of different parts. There's pieces of us, be it from childhood or whatever you want to call it, your inner child, your alter ego, whatever it is. But there's different personalities, there's different parts to us that have different feelings, and a lot of times they will show their head and they will look for comfort. A lot of them look for comfort in food, and a lot of it boils down to just the way we grew up, and it's in different ways and how that happens. Sometimes, I just had a couple of I don't even know if people are there. Check-ins today. There was a couple of people that were chatting with me about some of the things that came up. Somebody was telling me I had pizza this week, and I was like, cool. Well, tell me about it. And she came back and she said, I didn't even want the fucking pizza. I ate it because the person I was with, I was afraid of disappointing them if I didn't eat it. She goes, I didn't want it. But I sabotaged myself, felt bad about it. She didn't even like it. Like, this is literally, she wrote me a paragraph on it, and then she goes, and then I went home and ate rice cakes and peanut butter because I was so deep in my feelings. But that's a part. And I told her, I said, well, that's a part. And she even, she started to peel back the layers of the onion. And she was like, well, this goes back all the way back to this. And so sometimes, guys, it just takes that, peeling back the onion and looking under the hood, and what is the feeling behind the fact? Because literally at the end of the day, guys, there's facts and there's feelings. And a lot of times our feelings like to show up, and we just have to step in and go, what's the actual fact here? Am I tired? Am I trying to dodge something, not be in a feeling? Am I trying to please somebody? Ooh, we like to do that. That's all of us as females, like looking at what the facts are and then, analyzing where the feeling comes in. Very, very normal. Very normal. But that's where the work comes in, and creating these habits and learning, as Kate said, to hold the standard and like her non-negotiating February, or what we called it, but she does that, like holding to that standard and putting in those reps. That's what starts to create the new identity. And it's never going to be perfect. Like Kate says, she's going to have bundt cake sometimes. It's never going to be perfect. You're going to have the sliced pizza sometimes, but how fast do you get back to baseline? Because consistency will win every time. How fast can you get back to baseline? And each time, if it can get a little bit tighter and a little bit tighter and a little bit tighter, it starts to feel different. That's when the shift starts to happen. Good
And
stuff.
yeah, and just as we finish up, if people have questions, please, come off and I'll shut up. That I want to, as we wrap up, end with kind of some, not challenges for you, but some questions to ask yourself. What are you going to do to stay on your plan? What are going to be your non-negotiables? What are you going to do to tighten up? And I think this also goes back to frustration. The more we let ourselves negotiate with ourselves, the more licks, bites, and tastes. Like Kelly said, I'm a capital LBTer, man. I am a licks, bites, taster. The more I do that, I may stay in maintenance, but I'm not going to lose weight. I'm not going to see the scale move. I'm not going to see my body change. So there's things that you can negotiate with that'll keep you where you're at, but then you're going to get frustrated with yourself because you're not making the progress that you want. So if you want to make the progress that you want, what are you willing to do to make that progress? How are you going to make that mental shift to say, I'm a size 12 right now. I want to get to a size 10. How am I going to make that happen? And keep it going consistently. This is, I'm a doom scroller. I love social media as much as the next person. I can blow 4 hours on TikTok doing nothing. But the worst thing about it is that you get these 90 days. In 90 days, you can look like this. By summer, you can look like this. By fall, you can look like this. And I'm sorry, but most of us can't. We don't have the physical body to be able to make a 90-day reset and look like Jules or Cindy or anybody else on the planet. And so this is going to take time. And that's why I said in the beginning, everyone has different goals. And your goal is going to be different. But the longer you spend negotiating with yourself and giving into those little urges, the longer it's going to take for you to get there. And what I don't want to see people do is, well, screw it. I've been doing this for 90 days and I've lost 4 pounds. I'm not doing this anymore. Because you're not being honest with yourself when you walk into that kitchen or you walk into the break room at work or whatever it is, because you're not doing what you need to be doing. So what can you do to have going from this day forward to, May or June 1st? What are your going to be negotiables for the next 30 days, for the next 60 days? What is it for you that is going to take you to be on your plan and on purpose every single day?
Locked and loaded. I love it. That's a really good one, you guys. I'd love to hear. Kate, I'll let you post that in the community. We can have people follow up on that. But I love that, guys. It's what can we commit to? And, again, I'm just going to reiterate one more time that it does take a long time. Like, I did not look like this in 90 days. This took me years. And if you think for 1 minute I wasn't in everybody's shoes here, think again. I was. I negotiated with myself. I said that Cindy openly told you that she was in this program for a year. She worked with me as a coach for a year and colored outside the lines. And then openly went, if I want to see something. So Kate openly told you that, she's made progress, but there was a point where she had to go, okay, enough, right? Kelly just said the same thing. There was a point like she made progress and then she was like, and I love Kelly's story because I think one of the best things with her is she was like, well, I do take licks, bites, and tastes. And I asked her one day in a check-in, I'm like, well, do you track that shit? She's like, no. I said, we'll track it for a week. And then I think it was like 3 days later, she's in my inbox saying, have you looked at my fitness pal lately and seen what that says? And I'm like, yes, I've seen it. Like she was surprised. She was like, holy shit, that stuff adds up. And she made a choice though, because again, there was nothing wrong with what anybody was doing here. Kelly was maintaining perfectly, but she kept knocking on my door saying, but I want more, but I want more. And at the end of the day, what she really was saying to you is she was holding it in her hands. It was her choice. And when she made the choice to be like, nah, I got to lock in, she said it herself. All of a sudden, those licks, bites, and tastes were like, holy shit, they made a difference when they went away. And her body just went next level. She surprised herself. I know that because she's told me that. Have you seen me lately? Yep. See you every week. Sure do. So I love this call, guys. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. And I will drop the recording for all of you guys that are going to watch this on the replay. But I'd love for you guys all to share something that you've taken away from this call, from Kate, Cindy, Kelly, anybody that, was sharing, as well as Kate asked you to do. What's one thing that you can change this week to get yourself a little bit closer to that goal? What are you going to lock in on? What are you going to do when nobody's watching? Commit to. I love that. Oh, wait a minute. Tebby raised her hand. Do you have a question?
I thought you were asking us to share with the group.
Oh, well, share. Yes.
Well, no, I'm racking my brain thinking about what I want to do differently. I think a lot of these conversations reiterate what you work with me on. And one of the things I want to share is even though we say, what are you going to do when no one's watching? In my mind, Jules, you're watching. So, that's kind of how I feel. But I think that honesty piece, like the other day, you'll see in my check-in tomorrow, Jules, I had some chocolate chips. It sounds like confession, but I thought, oh, this is so much better than I used to do. And then I thought, Jules always says, what's going on? Why did you eat them? What was that if you paused? And it's hard to come up with a reason other than it's a craving. And what can I do instead? And that's where you get a little like wrapped around the axle.
Yeah.
So anyway, I appreciate this call. Jules, I appreciate you and the folks who found such results and happiness, and it's always motivational. So thank you.
You're welcome. I love that. And what Debbie just said is very true. Like, and what I love about what she said is maybe it is just a craving. Maybe it is, but sometimes it's about like, that's what I say. Like, well, ask yourself, what was this about? Sometimes, like Kate says, you just want the damn bundt cake. All right, own it, track it, move on, and there's not always a thing, but, creating that awareness around it is what's helpful, and understanding, why am I doing this? Because a lot of times there's an emotion behind it. Sometimes there's not. Sometimes you just want the fucking donut. Great, have it, move on. Don't beat yourself up. All right, guys, great call. Thank you all for showing up. And I'll see you in a couple. I think, guys, too, the weeks got mixed up because of the different long months. I think Nicole's Wednesday call is tomorrow. Is it, Amber?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
So it's normally every other week, guys, but we had that weird month in there and it kind of messed things up. So tomorrow, Nicole's call is on Wednesday, and I know she's kind of spinning off of this a little bit. So make sure you jump on that one too.
Be awesome. Thank you, ladies, so much for sharing.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. Have a good day, guys.
Gonna
Bye.
call tomorrow. Bye.